Good evening, my lovely friends. Welcome to Monday Motivation with Chris Cooking Nashville. If you are brand new here, I am Chris, better known online as Chris Cooking Nashville. I've lost about 130 pounds with keto and carnivore foods, and now I spend my time trying to motivate people, help people in the low-carb space, creating recipes to help people transition to a low-carb lifestyle and just find the joy in low-carb foods and be able to be creative in the kitchen like I love to be as a chef. And here we are, hopefully trying to help you guys with some motivation on Monday to get your week started off right. How is everybody doing? If you are watching, please say hello in the chat. Let me know you're here. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe and like and share and do all the fun things while you are here, because that's what tells YouTube that this is something valuable that they should show to other people. So appreciate all of you guys being here. This is going to be a fun one tonight. I'm going to talk with you guys a little bit about my brain. I know a bunch of people have been asking me what it is that I was doing, or what it is I'm currently doing, or how I have worked to regulate my brain so that I could kind of get back on track and turn my weight loss back around the way it needed to go, and just not struggle so much, especially because of the neurodivergence. That's really, really important. But this applies to neurotypical people too. Regulating our brain and having our brain not be overloaded is one of the most vital elements of good health. And if you're not taking care of your brain, you're missing, honestly, the most important factor of your existence, especially when it comes to your health, your weight loss, your metabolic health, your all these different things that we like to talk about so much in this space. Because if your brain is not on board, then nothing else is going to work. You just can't have anything happen without the brain. So this is going to be a really good one. If you guys have questions as we go along, drop them in the chat and try to get to as many of those as I can. Appreciate you guys being here. Looks like we got about 30 people watching, so y'all hit that thumbs up, drop it in the chat, say hello. Let's see who we got. Sherry Nevada Pup is here. Hi, Sherry. Don't really have any of those things you mentioned, but I love to hear your scientific thoughts on the whys. Hello, CCN fam. Good to see you, Sherry. We got some thoughts tonight, for sure. We'll be sharing that in just a minute. Andy is here, says hi to Sherry and everyone. Holly Springer is here. Hey, Holly. And Jolene is here. Hello, all. Happy Make a Difference Monday. I like that. That's a really cool way to put that. Deanna is here. Deanna is here. Howdy, all. Good to see you, Deanna. And Mr. Jeffrey Cox. Hello, beautiful PhD peeps. Good to see you, my brother. Lisa Ortega in the house. Good evening, friends. Hey, Lisa. Richard Williams, our neighbor in Copper Hill, is here. Good to see you, brother. And Mr. Dennis Harrison is here from Newport. Hey, Dennis, how are you, my friend? One of our rock star moderators, Maritza, in the house. Maritza Garza. Hi there, everyone. Good to see you, Maritza. And Deanna says, glad you were on tonight. It's been a long day. Great way to end the day. Well, I'm glad I'm on tonight, and I'm sorry it's been a long day, but we are going to very much try to inspire you, Deanna, and I'm hopefully going to offer some things maybe you can apply in your own life to help you just feel a little bit better. So, Pamela is here. Hi, Chris from Oklahoma. Good to see you, Pamela. 8 Worship 7 Dancer is here. Says hello from South Texas. And Cheryl Cobbett is here. Hi, all, from British Columbia. And Jeffrey Cox coming in with a $4.99 super chat. Well, thank you, brother. Says this works again. Keep up with the mission, brother. And don't forget my friend. Yes, sir. We are going to get that taken care of, hopefully, tomorrow. It has been wild, and I'm going to tell you guys what my schedule has been like the last couple of days, because that all ties into this whole brain regulation. And looky there, our peeps over at Carnivore Quest listening while editing. I'm guessing that's probably Larry. I think he does a lot of the video editing. So good to see you guys. Thank you so much for popping in. It's awesome to see you guys. I love Larry and Cassie over there. They're amazing people. Jeff Cox says, join the band, everyone. Yes, before we jump into our subject for the evening, let me just pop this up for you. This is a QR code. You can go to this QR code right here, scan that with your phone or whatever wireless device you would like to use. That will take you to our private community, The Band, where we do extra recipes and private live streams. I'm going to be doing some giveaways. I'm going to be sharing some stuff about my cookbook I've been working on. The band will be the first ones to know. There's just so many cool things, and it's a great community filled with support. So if you're trying to be stable on a low-carb way of life, you need a community around you, you're struggling and you can't find one anywhere else, you can always come and join us. We are not judgmental or dogmatic. We are just about wherever you are today, finding a way to take a step to being a little bit better tomorrow, and we are here to support you all the way through that. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Let's talk about what's going on tonight. So, if you are new to my channel, you may or may not know about my sort of long, in-depth diagnostic process that I went through for figuring out that I have autism and ADHD and OCD. I'm bipolar. RSD is also a part of that, rejection-sensitive dysphoria. There's a lot of things that kind of co-occur as one, like, overarching thing there, okay? So my brain is really, really hypersensitive to becoming dysregulated and overloaded, and it can cause a lot of issues for me. Now, I didn't know this for a long time. I went 37 years undiagnosed with autism and ADHD and, you know, the various other co-occurring issues that I have along with that. And it showed in the fact that I became so addicted to food and was struggling so badly, because when you have a brain that is wired like mine, consistently, people who are on that spectrum tend to be very depleted when it comes to dopamine, and they're very dopamine seeking. They have things like vitamin D deficiencies worse than regular neurotypical brains. There's a lot of things that cause really severe dysregulation to be an issue for your brain. I didn't know any of this, so I had to kind of go through all of this long process. And when we finally figured this out and I went through this long diagnostic process, I essentially started going down this rabbit hole of research, trying to figure out, well, what can I do for my brain? Even before I had my official diagnosis, I started operating as if this was the case, because I wanted to get out in front of this and try to change really my approach to things. And this was especially important because you guys may know I was losing weight and then my weight loss stalled out, and then stress in my life and not being on my feet as much because I quit my day job and started doing the YouTube thing full time. My diet never changed, but I started gaining weight. And I couldn't understand why. And it wasn't a lot of weight, but it was noticeable on camera. I had people who made sure that I knew. Like, I don't get up and look in the mirror every day. And I didn't really understand why. I was like, I'm eating the same things. I'm doing the same stuff. Maybe slightly less active, but I didn't think it would be enough that it should cause this issue. And so I was trying to figure out what was going on. And once we started going down this process of getting this diagnosis and me looking into all of the reasons my brain may not be properly regulated, it all started to make sense, because my cortisol was through the roof, and all of these things my brain was deficient in, I was running in fight or flight mode constantly. Massive inflammation, body being dosed with cortisol. Truthfully, the exact same thing happens with people that have Cushing's disease. So Cushing's gives you this, it's like there's different elements of this, but my mother-in-law has this, which is why I know how just debilitating this can be. You get a like a tumor, like a mass, right, that grows on your thyroid, your glands. And so essentially what's going on is you have these tumors that are causing constant hormonal issues, and one of the biggest ones is it's just pumping cortisol out daily, just day after day after day, just all this cortisol, and you get such severe health problems as a result of this. And so you have to have it addressed, which is what she's in the process of hopefully getting fixed. It's a process, but she's working on it. And so, not as severe as her, but like with my cortisol through the roof because of constant chronic dysregulation in my brain being overloaded, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't get anything to work. And finally, I had been carnivore long enough that my body just got used to it and goes, okay, cool. And then it started going back the other direction. And then the cortisol goes up as it's going the wrong direction, and life is stressful and whatever. So even though my diet doesn't change, my health started kind of going the wrong direction, even though I wasn't doing anything different. And this was, coupled with the fact that I have a YouTube channel where people love to tell you publicly how fat you are and how they see you gaining weight and you're obviously cheating and lying and, whatever else. That just causes more stress and more cortisol because I'm like, how do I explain that this is not happening? And I didn't even have an official diagnosis yet to be able to really know for sure if this is what was going on, which is why we were going through this whole process. So this was a long road. I started researching and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to get my brain regulated and I'm going to have to take a number of different steps to try to make that happen. And we're going to talk about the importance of brain regulation and some of the things that I have done that maybe might help you tonight. So, first of all, I understand overwhelm as well as anybody in the world because neurodivergent brains get overwhelmed, unfortunately, very easily. We are chronically low in dopamine, and then when we get dopamine, it spikes like a drug addict way higher than a neurotypical brain, and then it burns through it way faster than a normal brain, so it crashes again. So it's that up and down, and we get into burnout. So the way that I've kind of understood this and the way that I think about this and what I would encourage you to start thinking about, and again, no medical advice, I'm not a doctor, take this for what it's worth as anecdotal information, my own experiences for your entertainment and education. But what I would like you to think about if you're watching this and looking to potentially learn something from what I've been through, the brain is kind of working like a battery. If you think about these sorts of things, the brain is either charging or it is draining. It's like your cell phone. It's either on the charger and charging back up, or it's in your pocket and draining. The thing is that someone like me with an AuDHD brain, that's autism and ADHD together, and plus the other things that I have, any of these neurodivergent type conditions, they drain faster. Scientifically, there's scientific proof and reasons why, but they drain faster and they recharge more slowly, and there are certain things that are excessively draining to them that does not seem like it should be draining to average people. So the problem is overwhelm happens really fast with an AuDHD brain like mine because you hit 0%. And when you hit 0%, this is whether you're neurodivergent like me or neurotypical. When your brain hits 0%, you hit overwhelm. That is the way your brain handles this. When you have just pushed it too far, you are in overwhelm. The problem is that most people, especially people who are neurodivergent, but even neurotypical people, most people don't have a really reliable charging routine. They only know how to drain their brain. They don't really have a reliable recharge process, and that's one of the most important things you can do for your health. So, overstimulation is an instant battery drain, okay? Especially when you're neurodivergent. Overstimulation just zaps your energy, but neurotypicals too. Overstimulation, however that happens for you, is an instant drain. Just sucks you down to zero so quickly. Noise, notifications, conflicts, pressures that are on you, perfectionism because of things like my OCD, all of these things. These are all stressors, and these drain my battery, and things in your life I know will drain you. Most people, though, don't have a way to come back from that very easily. But the thing is, you have to realize your brain isn't broken, it's just overworked, and if we can come up with a way to come back from that, we can take a little bit more control of this, okay? So, first of all, how do we recognize that we're entering this spiral? This is really important for me because if I can stop it before it goes too far, I can recover way faster, and that's really vital for me. And we'll talk about some of the things that I've done, but catching it early regardless of what you do or don't do. Catching it early is one of the biggest steps you can take to helping yourself recover from this. And this is good not only for your mental health, but for your physical health too. Mine as well. I'm preaching to me here. So here's some signs that I have, as I've researched and as I've been through this myself with personal experience, these are some signs that I'm beginning to enter a spiral. Okay, and it's like, okay, I need to stop, I need to take a step back, and I need to regulate because this is getting bad. Irritability or a short fuse, impatience, that one pops up real fast. Brain fog suddenly hitting me where I'm not thinking clearly. This one also happens to me. Feeling too loud on the inside. And what I mean by that is it's like I can't shut everything down inside. It's like it's just overwhelming internally, the thoughts, the sounds, everything in my head. Doom scrolling and avoidance. This is a bad one. I sit with my phone and, do this whole thing, or I avoid the things that I know I need to do because I'm so overwhelmed. I really don't do this as bad anymore, but this used to be a big one for me for years when I was undiagnosed. Emotional sensitivity, RSD flares, right? So rejection sensitive dysphoria makes even the slightest criticism feel like a unbridled, aggressive, murderous attack. Okay, and this is all scientifically documented. So when people are struggling with RSD and they say that they're really struggling with like handling criticism or commentary from people, they're not whining and they're not complaining. This is a legitimate condition. And it can be really, really difficult. So most of the time, that's not a problem for me. But if it flares up suddenly, I know I'm on the verge of that emotional spiral downwards. And one that I used to, when I would get to the far edge of this, that I would really struggle with is wanting to isolate or shut down. I would close my door and stay in my room and have no interaction with the outside world because I didn't want anyone around me. And that was my kind of last-ditch effort to regulate before I would explode. Go research autistic meltdowns and you'll understand. Now, the thing is, for me, when I have meltdown, it doesn't look like shaking and crying, which is what many people with autistic meltdown experience. I was doing research and sort of found information discussing this. And it's basically like when you're having a meltdown, it's fight or flight response. You go into this like instinctual fight or flight thing. Your brain is just firing just crazy. You can't control it. It's like a wildfire. But the thing is, it's fight or flight. Most people flight, at least that I've seen talking about this online, but some people fight. I turn into the fight and I get pretty miserable and kind of a douche. Not meaning to be. When I have meltdown, it's an involuntary thing that's in your brain. They can see it on brain scans when it happens. It's an involuntary thing, but I say and do things that I don't want to do. So I try to avoid meltdown. Or if meltdown is happening, I need to remove myself from other people to let it pass and then, go from there. But isolating and shutting down was kind of my last-ditch effort, I realize now looking back in the past, to try to prevent that from happening. So the thing is that we have to understand these are not moral failures or weaknesses. These are not laziness. These are not excuses. These are early warning signs that you are pushing your brain too far. And it's not something to use as an excuse to not do the work, but it's also really important that we recognize these things so we can put a stop to the spiral, to the domino effect of all of this just snowballing and getting worse. So there's a few simple things you can do to calm your mind. We're going to get into things like some supplements and that kind of stuff that I specifically have chosen to add for me. But before we get into taking things, let's talk about just what we can do within our own head to help. So first of all is 60-second resets. This is one that I found, a list of things where it's like things you can do. They take like 60 seconds that just helps you on a quick reset and can kind of get you back in rhythm. First is cold water on your face or your hands, or a cold washcloth, or running your hands under cold water in the sink, or an ice pack behind your neck here on between your shoulders, things like that. Or you could even put the ice pack on your chest. That seems to help as well. Basically, it by doing that and getting that coldness on you, it helps to stimulate your vagus nerve. and it helps give you that I'm safe feeling when you're falling into a fight or flight response. It's really helpful. So cold water on the face or hands, or around kind of the neck and chest area. Another one is the breathing pattern of 4 in and 6 out. I don't personally use that one because I find that I think it just triggers my OCD too much, because I'm counting 4 and counting 6, and I'm trying to make sure 4 and 6 are proportionate to each other. It turns into more of a stressor than it does a help for me a lot of times, because of the way that I count internally when I do things like that, and the obsessive nature that I use to approach that. So obsessiveness is good in inventing my recipes. It's not helpful when it comes to counting and breathing in and out. So I don't tend to use that one, but a lot of people do, I know. Step outside and look at faraway things. Now, this seems really strange, but there's something about the understanding of physical space and being able to be outside, fresh air, sunlight hopefully, and look at something far away that gives you a sense of something bigger that calms your nerves. I do this one. Like spending my time outside when I can. It really makes a big difference. Another one, walk for 1 minute, no phone. This one is one that I didn't really think about, but then I realized when I get really upset and really stressed and whatever, I don't need to sit down and go quiet and whatever sometimes. Like, I need to go walk. I need to go move. When you put movement into it, it's like your body can burn through whatever's happening and get it back under control a lot faster. So walking for 1 minute and no phone. You got to put the phone away. Cannot be doing the scrolling thing when you're on the verge of having this spiral. It's not helpful. And that's whether you're neurodivergent or neurotypical. Doesn't matter. That blue light and all of the stimulation of social media and everything else on our cell phone, not helpful. Another category is sensory grounding. So there's a couple of things we can do here. One is dim the lights. When you dim the light, you feel calmer. It feels more restful. It's pretty straightforward. That helps a lot for me. Turn off background noise. This is very important for me because I'm very auditory. I'm a musician, and with AuDHD, I'm very easily overstimulated by sound. That is the one that really gets to me. Sound and maybe some texture are the ones that get to me quickly, followed by light. Those are kind of in that order for overstimulation for my brain. Turning off the background noise. Like, I'll be honest, when the electricity goes out, one of my favorite things is how quiet it is. There's no refrigerator running, there's no AC or heater, there's no ice maker, there's no fish tank, there's no humidifiers or air purifiers. Like, I hear all of that stuff at a high volume all day long, every single day. That's what my life is like, because that's the way my brain processes sound. When I turn off background noise, it is immediately so calming and grounding for me. It's very helpful. So wherever you are in terms of overstimulation with sounds, turn off the background noise. Even if you're neurotypical, just cut out the excess noise, and it will help you get over whatever's happening in your brain. Next is take a dopamine pause. No screens for 5 to 10 minutes. I have been working really hard to step away from screens. I try to spend less time on my phone, less time in front of a computer. If I'm not editing a video or doing something with photos that I need to be in front of my computer, I'm really trying in my life to spend less time with a phone or a computer in front of me. But especially if you're going through this, you need to take a dopamine pause, and you need to step away from screens for 5 to 10 minutes and just let your brain relax and recover, because that constant dopamine hit of looking at stuff on a screen is not helping your brain when it's trying to regulate. Recenter. Feet on the floor and a long exhale. It's like a deep breath, right? So we sit up. I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to do what my teachers always told me when I was in public school. Sit up straight, feet flat on the floor, long exhale. And if you do that, you can feel it go through your entire body. Now, it's not the only thing that I would need to do, but it is helpful in the moment to do that. And you can do it multiple times, whatever you need to do. So those are some sensory and grounding things. The next category here is reducing your cognitive load. So 1 task rule for 10 minutes, 1 task at a time. Stop trying to do 50 different things and bouncing from thing to thing to thing. I have ADHD along with my autism, so I understand the that way, okay? That's what my brain on the inside is doing all the time. Not necessarily on the outside, because I'm not an external ADHD person. I'm an internal person with that. But my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour all the time. I cannot turn it off. When you are already overloaded, the last thing you need to try to do is multitask. Don't do that. One task, focus on one thing, let everything else go, and be okay with it. It's really important. Another thing you can do is write down the next 3 steps, and the next 3 steps only. I need to do this, then this, then this, and that's it. And give yourself a very simple task list like that to focus on one at a time. Sometimes writing that down can just make it really clear and help you get a handle on things where you feel more in control of what you're trying to keep up with. And the last one, this one doesn't really do it for me, but I know a lot of people say this helps. Clear one small physical space. So like clean your desk, or clean up, your TV area, or I don't know, whatever it is, but just clear one small space, just straighten it out so you have a place where you feel like it's organized and settled and you achieved something. Cleaning drives me crazy. I really try to keep up with it, but thank God for my wife, Ash, because I would be a mess if it wasn't for her. I struggle with that type of stuff, but she is fantastic at that, and she helps me with that, and I try to do the best I can to give that back and make sure that I'm not just making messes and everything else. But it's hard. I get stressed when I'm trying to organize things because my OCD kicks in, and it gets more difficult than it is helpful. But these are some things you guys can try. So the thing you have to remember is in all of these, your brain basically needs clarity, and it's not about your willpower. You cannot willpower your way through this. You need systems that help you get clarity so your brain can see clearly to function. That's the problem. It's overloaded. You don't want to just put more stuff on it and force it through. You want to step back from everything and really take things intentionally. So one of the things that I think is hard for people to understand, and this is not just for neurodivergent people. Neurotypical people can have things like emotional overload and RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria, as well. Those things develop over time. Those are not like you're born with RSD. That is a conditioned thing that happens to your brain over time, and it is very, very difficult to ever turn off. You pretty much fight with it the rest of your life. But it's really common in things like autism and ADHD, but it can happen with neurotypical people too. The thing that you have to realize with this kind of stuff, and this is why you need to give yourself grace if you're feeling particularly sensitive to things around you. Rejection and criticism hit 10 times harder when you are overstimulated, when you are on emotional overload, or especially if you have RSD where you're kind of that way all the time. There is a chemical storm going on in your brain that is behind those emotional reactions you have. It is not you being emotional for the sake of being emotional. It is your brain releasing chemicals that are hijacking the way you behave. Any woman who has ever had hormone shifts a certain time of the month will tell you that it is very difficult to control the way you act when your hormones are doing weird things in your brain, because even you know it doesn't make sense when you do it, but that doesn't mean you can change that. RSD, emotional overload, especially in a brain like mine with AuDHD, that's just kind of a thing you have to learn to live with. Now, it's not an excuse to behave however you want and just, treat people badly, but it is a thing you have to recognize what it is so that you can approach handling it not in a self-hateful way, but in a realistic, this is what I'm going through way. Doesn't excuse my behavior, but it does give me a logical reason to not be beating myself up for being a bad human being. I need a better system so that I know how to deal with these things rather than have to fight them constantly. Overwhelm makes you misread tone and intention, okay? Even if you're neurotypical. If you're in overwhelm, you will misread someone's tone of voice or their intention in what they said or the tone of what they wrote or whatever, because your brain literally can't see it the other way. it's that fight or flight response. Everything looks and feels and sounds like a threat because your brain is stuck in that loop, and it's really hard to get it out of there. This is one of the hardest parts, I think, of being a YouTuber. You deal with this online negativity every single day. Every single day I have negativity come at me online. Now, I have a personal assistant that handles a lot of the questions and comments and stuff that don't specifically need my attention on YouTube now, because I just can't keep up with all of that anymore. It's impossible with 140 plus thousand subscribers to keep up with all of that on a daily basis, and plus all my other social medias. But I try to get to the ones that I can, and every now and then I do end up seeing some of the negative stuff. My assistant usually just deletes that stuff because no one's got time for that. But every now and then I do still see it, and it can be hard. It's very difficult to separate your emotion from the truth when you have a brain that is wired to hyperfixate on everything negative as a stressor and as a threat, and you have to fight against it. And this is why, and I appreciate when people are like, just let it go. You're great. You don't have to pay any attention to that. I appreciate that. My brain is not wired to do that very well. And so I try. It's a process, but this is why you need to know this kind of stuff that's going on with emotional overwhelm, because if you are going through that, you need to step back from things and not pay attention to those things and not look at those comments, because you're like, I'm not in the brain space right now to handle that. My RSD is really out of control. My AuDHD, I am overstimulated. I'm about to the point of overwhelm. I don't need to handle the negativity today. I need to stay away from that. I need to go do the things to regulate so that I don't hear things as super negative, or I don't struggle to respond to things appropriately. I need to step away, get regulated, and then I can go deal with those things with a clear head. Whether you're neurodivergent like me or neurotypical, your brain does this, and it's really important that we see it coming so we can stop that. The thing that has been most helpful for me with this, and I think would be helpful for any of you who might experience the same thing, is remember that you're not being dramatic. You're wired differently. And if you're neurotypical, you're still wired in a way where you might deal with it too. And it's okay. You just have to be able to put a stop to it so that you don't do something you later regret. And that's the hard part, but that's what I'm really trying to do. So one thing that's really helped me with this is this thing called the 90-second rule. And it's basically this idea that feelings will peak for a maximum of about 90 seconds as long as you don't feed them with more thoughts and input. So if you're feeling negative, you're feeling angry, you're feeling whatever, if you can step away from it and give yourself 90 seconds of not focusing on that thing, not looking at more comments, not trying to come up with a response, not handling what the person said, not responding in a way that would make you even angry or whatever, if you can just step away for 90 seconds, your feelings will peak and then they will start to subside again. It's just the way our brains are wired. So it's worth putting in the time. It's hard to remember in the moment. Believe me, I'm preaching to myself here. So 90 seconds to let your feelings peak makes a big difference. Let's talk about food now. Because this is one of the biggest things that has helped me, and this is why I ended up in this whole keto carnivore space and to begin with. Long before I knew I was neurodivergent, keto and carnivore started helping me address brain regulation issues when I didn't even know that they were there, but it already was starting to help. So, first of all, stable blood sugar equals a stable mood, okay? Ask anybody who's eating a low-carb diet what happens when you put a bunch of sugar in there, and they'll tell you their mood goes... I mean, it just goes out of control. Mine for sure. Some of the just douchiest ways I've ever behaved and acted are right after, like the day after I've had a bunch of carbs the night before. I don't do that stuff now because it's not worth it. It just throws my mood and my behavior just off the rails because the blood sugar is so tied into your brain and how your brain behaves. So when you have meals that are meat focused, meat first, right? You eat the protein first before anything else. It reduces anxiety and irritability. And there's a bunch of science out there that explains why. I'm not going to go down that long rabbit hole. We'd be here for hours. But meat first reduces the anxiety and the irritability. That's really important and helpful for me. high fat also supports your focus, your clarity, and your emotional regulation. So this is that whole fat is good for the brain thing. Dr. Bright talks about it. Dr. Barry talks about it. Dr. Baker talks about it. Dr. Chafee talks about it. Steak and Butter Gal has talked about it. I mean, you can go down the list. Dr. Kiltz and Jenny Middich. And I mean, you just go through all of these people in the low carb space, keto, carnivore, whatever, and they talk about fat being good for your brain. It supports your focus, your clarity, and your emotional regulation. And that's really true for me. So even as I'm trying to lose weight and I'm playing with, macros and finding different things that, makes my body feel the best, whatever, I still, anytime I really need brain help, if I feel like my brain's not quite where it needs to be, I use fat as a leverage to help my brain out, soothes my brain, makes me feel good and emotionally regulated, and I think clearly. So if I need a little bit of brain help, I up my fat. It's fantastic. So the thing we have to realize is that carbs can trigger a bunch of stuff. Mood swings, brain fog, anxiety, inflammation. We know that one, right? I I ate a bunch of carbs one time, and the next day was just an insufferable ass, just to be perfectly honest, not even meaning to be, and I didn't realize it while I was being that way during the day, but like the next day, I remember looking at Ash and feeling so guilty and so terrible about the fact that I was just an insufferable ass the entire day before. And the problem is when you do that kind of stuff, it's honestly, it's not even the day of doing that. That's not fun, but the meltdowns and the different things with my brain, with carbs trigger and all that kind of stuff, I can handle all of that. I've dealt with that my whole life. The thing that really gets to you, though, when you do that kind of stuff is the shame and the guilt that lasts for a week afterwards because you keep thinking about how you behaved and how you made somebody else feel. So it's really difficult to get over that part of it. And I really feel horrible after I act that way towards people. But that's why it's so important that I recognize these things and I don't eat the carbs that would trigger it. And I don't let myself push to the point of burnout and meltdown so that I don't do it. So no carbs and recognizing my spiral quickly are kind of two of the biggest things that change my life and my mental health. And it's one of the reasons when people were like, you're cheating, you're gaining weight, obviously you're eating bowls of ice cream. Like if I was eating bowls of ice cream, nobody around me would be able to tolerate me. Even before I had my diagnosis to know why that was going on, I saw that pattern and understood that it was. So carbs can trigger a lot of really bad stuff for some people, especially if you have a brain like mine that is highly addictive. This is also why people who are autistic and ADHD and OCD and these other things, this is why they can tend to be such addictive personalities, because they're dopamine seeking and they have a really addictive response to anything that you add in. Food addiction, soda, caffeine, that's where that stuff comes from for me. It's why it's so bad, and this is very well documented that this is something that my brain is going to make me deal with. So it's why it's really vital that I don't go tiptoeing through the carbohydrate pool on a daily basis, because I can't do that. That's why I got to be 400 pounds too. The binge eating and all of the junk, yeah. So some simple brain-saving foods that I lean on, and I would suggest you lean on as well. Beef, butter, and salt. Those three things together for days my brain is just out of control. It's medicine. It really makes a big difference. I add eggs for dopamine stability. I get a dopamine thing from eggs, and they're really, really great. When Dr. Barry calls them a superfood, he's not kidding. Electrolytes and hydration. Let me talk about what I'm doing on a daily basis right now, because electrolytes are part of this. So these are the animal foods and all that kind of stuff, but I'm actually adding in some supplements along with my electrolytes. So here's what I'm doing on a daily basis that helps me regulate my brain, aside from all of the ways you live your life and recognize things part. This is the supplement side. So I'm doing all of the recognizing stuff. I'm eating a carnivore, mostly carnivore diet, leveraging fat as necessary for either weight loss, where I bring it down and stretch my calorie burn. I don't really subscribe to the calorie in, calorie out thing, but It's a great just discussion point. It's a great piece of terminology just so people understand what I'm talking about. So I bring the fat down and my caloric intake comes down on days that I really want to shred down and burn body fat. And then I leverage it up on days when I need to soothe the brain, using that fat as a leverage. And that's going to be part of my shred protocol that I'm going to do a video on and tell everybody about soon. In the morning, the very first thing I do, I get out of bed. My phone is in another room. I keep my phone in a different room now. And I get out of bed for the first 30 to 45 minutes of my day. I don't have a phone in front of me. I can't, because long story short, when you look at the phone within that first 10 to 20 minutes that you've woken up, your brain is actually in a not fully awake state, and it processes looking at a screen in a very fight or flight inflammatory way. And you get this huge dopamine and adrenaline rush, and it's part of the addictive process of that screen time. So I have really stepped away from that. My phone is in another room the first 30 to 45 minutes of my day, no screens. I go downstairs, I get a bottle of water, and I put salty electrolytes in there. My salty link is in the description box for you guys. You can go get yourself a discount on that. It's the best electrolytes on the market, I think. My favorite anyway. Love Chris and Miriam over there at Keto, Chow, and Salty. So I do salty electrolytes. I do TMG, which is trimethylglycinate, I believe is what it stands for. TMG, and I do a folate, like a B folate vitamin. I do those with my electrolytes, and I do methylene blue. Now, I know some people say methylene blue doesn't do anything. I tried it, N=1 experiment, and it has made a massive difference for my brain. Just me personally. So I do 10 drops of methylene blue, pharmaceutical grade methylene blue, in my electrolyte water, and I drink that whole bottle before I have anything else. I also add creatine, about 3/4 of a tablespoon of creatine. So creatine, the TMG, and the methylfolate, along with the methylene blue. What that's essentially doing is the electrolytes are hydrating my brain, which makes it feel better and hydrates the rest of my body. The sodium and all that stuff is necessary for brain function. And then all of those other things are pre-methylators. So they essentially, they're not the things my brain needs to function, but they're the precursors to all the things my brain needs to make to function right. So it sets my brain up for success with that hydration and sodium right at the very beginning of the day. That's the first thing I do. I then have coffee later. I'm only having black coffee right now with a little bit of salt, maybe a little drop of sweetener in it, but black coffee, no cream, because I'm trying to use that first part of the day to fast, because I'm on my shred protocol trying to burn, body fat. But whether you put cream in your coffee or not, wait a little bit after you've had your hydration to have your coffee. So for me, 20 to 30 minutes after I've drank my electrolytes, that's when I have coffee. So that way I'm not just spiking cortisol with caffeine the very first thing out of bed. That has made a huge difference. The other things that I do is I have more electrolytes before bed, a little while before bed, an hour, 2 hours before I'm going to sleep at least. I have more electrolytes, and then at night before bed, I take magnesium glycinate. I take ashwagandha, because that really helps me with the cortisol issue personally. Again, just my own personal things that I've done here that have helped. Ashwagandha. I take, the magnesium glycinate. I take the ashwagandha. I take L-theanine, because that helps my brain to settle down, which helps me sleep more consistently, which sleep issues are a big issue for neurodivergent brains, and I need good sleep. So I take L-theanine before bed. I take a vitamin D3K2, because, again, neurodivergent brains usually are chronically depleted of vitamin D. And I also use glycine, the amino acid, the animal-based amino acid glycine. I put a little bit of that, a little bit less than a teaspoon of that, in my electrolyte water that I drink at night. So the glycine sets me up to sleep well, and then the magnesium glycinate, the ashwagandha, the vitamin D3K2, and the L-theanine help me to regulate, feel good, and all of this together has made a huge difference along with the carnivore and kind of ketovore stuff on occasion diet that I eat. And coupled with all of these recognizing the spiral and changing my habits and all this, that is what I have done that has regulated my brain so much better. And it is incredible what my brain can do when I'm doing all of this. Now, one of the things you need to understand here is if you are kind of feeling fragile and on the edge and you're struggling, those keto sweeteners are not your friend. This is true for me, and I think it's probably true for just about everybody else. When you're on the edge and you're like, I'm mentally just kind of struggling right now, keto sweeteners kind of spike this craving for more sweetness. You want the dopamine hit, and you start going down a rabbit hole. So I don't use any of those keto sweeteners unless... I don't really use a lot of keto sweeteners anyway, minus the ones that are in my electrolytes, but especially if I'm really struggling, the last thing I need to do is be having like whipped cream with some sweetener in it. Like it's just not a good thing for me to do because it takes me too far down that road. So when I'm really struggling mentally, that is not a place that I go. So that's basically what I've kind of been doing to help regulate my brain here. And this makes a huge difference. And if you want to know kind of the level at which I can do this kind of stuff, I have completed cooking and photographing all 130 recipes of my cookbook in a sum total of 26 days. That's 9 to 12 hours of cooking a day. I've taken roughly, I think, 17 or 18,000 photos. So that I can go through and, pick the best ones that I then submit to the publisher for the book. And there's still other stuff in the book that I have to write and, things that I have to finish. That is the level at which my brain will allow me to work when I am regulated. That's along with doing my recipe videos, my live streams, my everything else that I'm already doing. I'm cooking all of those things. And Ash has a music career that I'm involved in too. So, we do a lot of stuff. Like I'm really crazy busy and I can keep up with all of that when my brain is regulated. A couple of years ago, I would have never dreamed I could do this with my brain. So that's just a testament to how much those few supplements and the hydration and then getting the phone away from my face and eating keto and carnivore foods and trying to sleep properly, which is part of what those supplements are really for, because sleep is a big deal, but it's hard for a neurodivergent brain. All of these things, that is a testament to what that can do for you. So if you guys have questions about any of those things, drop them in the chat. I'm going to pop over there and answer questions and say hello to you guys here in a minute. But that's basically what I have been doing. That is how I'm regulating my brain, and that's what's making such a huge difference for me. So I'm curious for you guys, what is overwhelming your brain right now? Like, do you struggle with focus, with mood, anger? Do you have shutdowns? Like, what are you going on? What's going on in your brain? What are you dealing with? And if you're dealing with this kind of stuff, like, is there a meal that helps you calm down? I'm curious, like, not carbs. We know carbs are not a good thing. That's just a temporary dopamine drug hit. So are there keto and carnivore meals you can use? If there's anybody out there who is ADHD or AuDHD or autistic or OCD or any of these other things, I would be very curious, if you're willing to drop it in the chat, what your number one trigger is for dysregulation and your brain starting to do this kind of stuff. So just want to remind you guys as we get ready to do some questions here, you're not lazy, you're not broken. Overwhelm is a state of your brain. It is not an identity of you as a person. So I've been through it, and I'm here to help you guys out in any way that I can, answer questions, and let's work on this stuff together because we can make a huge difference in our lives. So let's see what you guys got going on in the chat over here. Cheryl says, question, struggling with sleep for many months after going off mental health meds. I've tried to fix this with no results. Any suggestions? I really don't want to go back on drugs. Cheryl, totally understand. So magnesium glycinate, yes, thumbs up. Magnesium glycinate and ashwagandha and L-theanine and vitamin D3K2 and putting some glycine powder, just pure unadulterated glycine, in some water half an hour to an hour before you go to sleep. Try that, because it's all kind of, simple natural stuff that shouldn't mess with you. Again, not a doctor, I'm not giving you medical advice, but that's my ideas. Something that would be worth maybe considering. See what you maybe get some results from, because it has made a huge difference for me. And dealing with your cortisol issues and that kind of stuff, that makes a big difference for sleep. I struggle with sleep, but those things have made a big difference for me. So it might help you out too. I really hope that does. Let me know if you try it, if you see any results, or if there's anything else I can do to help. I'm sorry you're struggling with that. Lisa, watched your latest video this afternoon. Too bad I miss your lives, but I'm always at work. That's okay, Lisa. Appreciate you watching on replay. Jessica says, good evening, Chris. George and I are here with you in Ontario. Well, Jessica, it is so good to see you. Let's see. There's Kara Judd. Hi, Kara. Says, my son has autism, NVLD, and ADHD. He was diagnosed late 8th grade. I'm sure you feel a sense of relief. I have ADHD. Proud of you, my friend. Kara, you cannot even imagine, and I appreciate that. There's so much relief knowing, and it's a process, right? We have to work towards it, but we're doing the work, and I appreciate your support, and proud of you, and proud of your son as well. That's a lot to deal with, but it sounds like you guys are doing it, and good for you. Carnivore Quest says, you're doing great, Chris. Well, I appreciate that. You guys are doing great too. I love you guys, and I'm really glad you're here. Rick from Twin Brook Acres is here. How are you, Rick? Lisa says, Chris, that is what I see every day in the mirror. I get the flight. I totally understand, Lisa. I think brain regulation and some of these things we talked about tonight might really be something helpful for you. So if you have to, go back and watch the replay and write stuff down and whatever you got to do. But it's brain regulation, girl. It is the way to do it, I'm telling you. Brian is here. Hey, Chris and everyone. Hi, Brian. And Juju is here. Says, box breathing is my jam. 4444. Well, that's great. I'm glad that works for you. She says, I don't like that one. You don't like either. Yeah, there's something weird about it. I know it's supposed to work, but it just stresses me out. And part of that is just my OCD of measuring how long the 4 is versus the 6. And there's just so many places my ADHD then kicks in. It's really something. But I'm glad that box breathing, though, helps you so much. Lisa says, I have to talk myself a lot lately. I have to remind myself to do one thing at a time. Yep, absolutely. Karen says, I have OCD, so my house is totally clean. I love that. That's a good outcome of having that OCD sometimes, if you can keep things clean. Unfortunately, I don't have the OCD that makes me want to keep things clean. I have the OCD that wants the mess to look a certain way and gets irritated if anybody else messes with the mess in a way that I don't like. So it makes it tough for me. Lewis Stone is here, doing it wrong. Howdy, y'all. Good to see you, Lewis. And Karen says, everything has its place, and all the family here knows it has to be that way. I can go one day without it wrong placed, but then I hit the fan. I relate. My kitchen is that way. There's most places in the house I kind of don't care about. My studio up here, my YouTube studio, and my kitchen. Those are the two places. It's like, please don't touch my stuff. And if you do touch my stuff, please put it right back where it was. Brother Barry Weems in the house. What's up, Barry? Says hello. Hope everyone is doing well. Good to see you, my friend. Karen, why are people so negative now? It sucks. I know, Karen. It's, that's just, it's the way the world is. And I'm not trying to change, I'm not trying to change people. I just want people to, if they don't have something nice and they don't like what I do, I just want them to kind of just go away. That's it. I want to focus on positive stuff because it's important for me and the community. If we all focus on negative things, we're never going to get anywhere. I don't want to be that way. Maritza says, I fixate on negative thoughts and it's very hard to let go. Yep. Me too. I work really hard to try to stay away from them, so I try to make sure the negative thoughts just don't happen. One of the other things with OCD sometimes is you can get very intrusive thoughts that are honestly awful, horrible things. Like you think about what it would be like if I jumped off of this bridge and my body like broke all over the ground as, I hit down below, kind of a thing. Not that I have any desire to do it, but my brain just goes into this involuntary, I'm going to vividly imagine what that would be like, what it would feel like all this kind of stuff. And it's very stressful. Like my cortisol goes up, my adrenaline goes through the roof because I'm thinking about just awful things. And for a long time, I thought that was a shortcoming of me as a person. And now I go, oh, that's because I have OCD, and sometimes intrusive thoughts is part of OCD. It's really wild. So now that I kind of know what it is, I just sort of like accept it and just kind of move on, and it doesn't last nearly as long. So, yeah, I don't know, Maritza. It's a hard thing sometimes when your brain decides to focus on things you don't want it to. So. Let's see. Kara says, "Can you put all the stuff in the comments what you take? Thank you." Yeah, let me just drop this in. So, morning is TMG, B folate, creatine, and electrolytes. And then once that sends, in the evening, I take glycine powder. I take magnesium glycinate. I take ashwagandha. I take L-theanine. And I take a D3K2. And more electrolytes. See if that'll send. My internet's being a little slow. There you go, Kara. That should drop all of that stuff in the comments for you. So that's the morning stack and the evening stack. The evening stack I take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half before I lay down in bed, and then usually I'm in bed for an hour before I actually go to sleep. So it's a very helpful thing for me. I make a big cup of coffee, put a pack of salty caramel or cocoa in it first thing in the morning. Just me doing it wrong. Hey, Lewis, if it works for you, brother, good for you. The caffeine spiking the cortisol is a thing that someone like me who already struggles with a lot of cortisol probably wouldn't work very well for me. But if it works for you, hey, you go with it, man. Lisa says, I totally use magnesium glycinate. It helps. Ashwagandha gives me heart palpitations, unfortunately. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, it's a thing. Sometimes you gotta sort of experiment and figure out which ones work for you. Jolene McCreary is here, says this was fantastic and so calming and well spoken. Thank you. Well, Jolene, thank you. You're so sweet. I'm glad that this was helpful. I think this is really important info, and we don't talk about this very much in the keto and carnivore space, but I think it needs to be talked about. This is a big deal, something that I didn't know for a long time. There's my brother Dustin from Keto Simple, said just wanted to drop in and show you some love. I appreciate you, brother. I miss you, man. Love you, buddy. Lisa says, I plan on writing them down. I need to regulate totally. Yep, absolutely. And that's the thing. This is a process. It does not happen overnight. I've been doing this 8 or 9 months now, probably. Step by step, building little by little by little, adding supplements, adding new things, adding here's how I handle my RSD, adding this, getting an assistant. I mean, there's so many things we have done over the last 9 months or so to sort of get this all built up, and it's a one step at a time thing, but you can do it. Rebecca Harmon, I'm going through career burnout. I'm a preschool teacher and elder caregiver, and my mother-in-law, I'm emotionally and mentally drained. Rebecca, I understand, and that's difficult, especially because careers can really make you go into burnout bad. I've been there. Now, I've realized being neurodivergent, the jobs that I have held in the past are like the worst possible jobs from the way my brain works that I could do. Of course, I didn't know I was neurodivergent, so there wasn't even like an opportunity to ask for any accommodations, although unfortunately, that's kind of one of the things the autism community is fighting against, is workplace accommodations are not really a thing that employers are willing to do for autistic people. In fact, a lot of times they fire you for being autistic if you if you self-identify, if you go to them and you tell them like, hey, I'm neurodivergent and these are things that would be helpful for me. A lot of people get fired for that. The HR departments will come up with some reason to fire them. And from what the autism community has said, even if you go to lawyers who work in this space, who are, all about like HR and workplace law and all that kind of stuff, even the lawyers will tell you, as someone who's autistic, that the system is not set up to be your friend, that you will end up most likely being the one to pay the cost, and you probably will not beat that employer even if you take them to court. So there's a reason that like 80% plus of autistic people, they think, are unemployed. So I'm very blessed that I can do what I do and be a YouTuber and a content creator and a musician, because it gives me the ability to do something to make a living without constantly burning myself out. So it's tough. Careers are a hard place to go. Neurotypical or neurodivergent, either way, that's a difficult thing. And then the caregiving as well, I'm sure that's a lot. So, but maybe some of these techniques could help you a little bit, at least kind of just regulate when you have, a few moments here and there. It might help you out. Let's see. Dustin Keto Simple says, yeah, I can't count with box breathing. Yeah, man, drives me crazy. So I know it helps other people and I'm glad, but it just doesn't do it for me. Juju says, I struggled hard to learn to knit. Now that I can say I'm a confident advanced beginner, if I pick up my knitting, it is impossible to get caught up in my thoughts when I'm trying to not mess up. Yeah, and sometimes that's the thing, just having something to do can help your brain focus on things. I definitely do that. Rebecca says, I'm leaving one to focus on the other, caring for my mother-in-law. Yeah, that's hard. I'm sorry, Rebecca. Holly says, I'm ADHD and dyslexic. I struggle stopping my brain from spiraling with the past. I cannot change. Yes, me too. Me too, Holly. You're not alone. It's difficult. The past can really come back. But if you kind of use some of these regulation techniques, it makes the impact of it not so bad. That, at least for me, that has been the experience. Dustin says, Chris is not like Mars. He doesn't love when you touch the stuff. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Rebecca says, I'm having a hard time letting go of my career. Been in the industry for 25 years. I know, that's a long time, Rebecca, but I'm very proud of you for just taking that on as best you can. And I know it's hard, but you're doing really great. Juju says, I've been really loving Kill Switch supplement at bedtime lately. It's got a lot, if not all, of what you said for nighttime. That's interesting. I'll have to look that up, Juju. I've never heard of that, but I'll take a look at that. That might be kind of a cool thing. Let's see. So there's my... Lisa says, what is the glycine for, Chris? Yeah, so when you take glycine at night, about 30 to 45 minutes before you lay down, it helps bring all of that calmness to your brain so that you can sleep better. Makes a huge difference for me. Might not help for you, but for me personally, it has made a huge difference. Now, you don't want to take too much of it, because if you get too much glycine, it can actually make it worse. It can actually like ramp your brain up. So if you're having a hard time getting your brain to calm down at night, and you don't seem to be able to sleep through the night, or you toss and turn and have weird dreams — I have crazy dreams sometimes. If you're struggling with that, like between a half teaspoon and a teaspoon of glycine about 30 to 45 minutes before bed, that can make a big difference. A big difference. At least it does for me. So, hey, Carrie is in the house. She says, ashwagandha is? Ashwagandha is a... is it a nootropic is what they call it. It's like a plant, but it's sort of a brain thing that happens as a result of it, and it helps bring cortisol levels down when taken consistently. You have to take it for several weeks before the cortisol can really start to respond to it, it seems, but ashwagandha is it's an herb. A plant, but it helps you to sort of bring down your cortisol levels, which for someone like me with a neurodivergent brain, that's like one of the biggest issues. Yeah, there Juju is. It's an adaptogen. That's the word that I was trying to think of, an adaptogen. Yeah, it's an adaptogen, and it helps bring your cortisol down. It's a plant of some variety. Kara says, do you know autistic people, 85% are unemployed? So ridiculous. It is awful. Yeah. It's like, it's hard to even get a good read because we're not entirely sure how many people are autistic because we're still catching up on being able to diagnose people properly. But yeah, the estimates are anywhere from, depending on who you ask, anywhere from 60 all the way up to almost 90% of autistic adults are unemployed because they struggle so much to hold down a job because the system is not built for autistic people to be successful. Even though they're really great at certain things, there are certain elements of the workplace that are very much the opposite of what someone who is autistic would really thrive doing. And employers, rather than understanding that and saying, hey, how can we make you really good at the things you're good at and use you as a really great employee on the team, instead employers tend to be like, no, you got to be like everybody else and you got to fit into all these other things, and if you can't do that, well, then you're not a team player. And autistic people get really awful treatment from employers. Ask me how I know. Juju makes the great point. HR is there to protect the company, not you, sadly. That is absolutely correct. And when you, as an autistic or ADHD or any kind of person with neurodivergence, try to do anything to advocate for yourself in those scenarios, it is not usually going to work in your favor, unfortunately, because most people, neurotypical people, are the ones that have set up the workplace culture to work the way their brains do, and there is just not very much understanding in society right now for the fact that neurodivergent brains are not broken, they're just wired differently. And if you just work with what they're good at, they can do incredible things and be amazing employees. It just may not look the same as it looks for the other employees, but unfortunately most workplaces are like, no, that's wrong, you have to do it our way, you have to be like everybody else or you're not a team player, and they think you're just being difficult rather than understanding that your brain is different. And it's really hard for autistic people in a lot of places right now. Kara says, I really think there needs to be a change, and that change needs to be society. People need to be more kind. I agree. I'm just trying to put it out there as best I can, and trying to be the change I'd like to see. Brian says, I've upped my creatine and am feeling a lot better. Brian, that's great. Good for you, man. It makes a big difference for me, too. Rebecca, what does the creatine do for the mental state? I take it for sore muscles. So creatine is good for your muscles, absolutely. But if you boost your creatine a little bit more, I mean, I get a lot by eating the protein in the animals that I eat anyway. But if you increase that a little bit more, it gives you a little bit more energy in the brain. Creatine is kind of a precursor to a lot of things your brain needs to do. So by boosting your creatine intake very first thing in the morning, it doesn't break your fast in a meaningful way, at least, really at all. And it sets your brain up for brain clarity and your focus and all of that kind of stuff. And it helps sustain that throughout the day. It makes a huge difference for me. Ash also takes it. She's not neurodivergent. She's neurotypical, but it makes a big difference for her. It also seems to make a big difference for women in general as they age. And it's supposed to help sort of ward off things like mental decline as you get older and things like that. So there's a lot of info out there. I'm still learning about it, but creatine's a big one. Yeah, Juju's here. Helps the brain by improving energy homeostasis, which can enhance cognitive functions like memory. Absolutely. Hey, Chris, Dawn sends her love. We've realized that I, too, am definitely not neurotypical. I'm wired a lot like you, it seems. Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here, man. It's David and Dawn. I'm so glad to see you here. And, yeah, it's amazing when you come to that realization and you go, oh, my brain doesn't work like everyone else's. But if you embrace it and you go, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with the fact it doesn't work the same. I just have to work with it instead of against it like everyone else would suggest that I do, because to them that seems normal. If you do that, it makes such a huge difference. So that's really, really cool. So glad you're here, brother. And hello to you and Dawn, and love to you guys too. Juju, I think, is still talking about the creatine here. Reasoning, processing speed, particularly under stress, from factors like sleep deprivation or aging, works by acting as an energy buffer to help regenerate the brain's energy currency Adenosine triphosphate. Yes, so ATP is exactly right. Juju is right. ATP is where energy in the brain is kind of, well, cells in general. It's kind of like the energy that's within your cells, and if you don't have enough of that going on in your brain, you go all the time. So yeah, it's a really big deal to be able to get your brain doing that, especially first thing in the morning. And David says, we're working on a few things so we can do an update on what we're doing for neurodiverse children. I love it, man. I'm so excited to see what you guys are going to do. You're going to do such great stuff. So, well, guys, I think we're all caught up on comments. I appreciate all of you. I just wanted to let you know we are done with the photos of the recipes, at least in the cookbook. 130 recipes in 26 days. Cooked, photographed, eaten, shared with many friends. It has been a wild ride. I'm exhausted, and I'm glad that those are done because that's probably the biggest project of the book. I've got some more stuff to do. I've got some things to write, and we'll get that all going. But that will be coming. Announcements will come when I know the timeline for when it's coming out and everything. You guys will be the first to know here, so make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, all this stuff. Go to the QR code right there. Join the band. We would love to have you be a part of the community. It would mean so much to us because we love being over there, supporting you guys with things just like this. I talk about these things and more over there in the band, do private lives, giveaways, all kinds of stuff. You can actually probably see sitting right over here behind me on top of this blue cooler is a little cooktop. That's something we're going to give away in the band, the little electric cooktop. And there's just extra things. Like, I'm blessed with people that send me things to test out and gear and all this, and I like to pay it forward and give that to my band members. And we do, like I said, live streams, extra recipes, all kinds of stuff. So and we're going to be growing that. That's going to be a really big focus project. Once I get done with this cookbook, that's going to be another thing we're going to really focus on. So if you guys want to jump in, now's the time. Go to that QR code. It'll take you, and we would love to see you over there in the band. And it's just a really cool place. You get direct access to me and Ash and Dustin from Keto Simple and Victor at Southern Keto are over there. Amanda Decker from Deckerless Carbs is in there, and Clear Path Medical. It's really, really cool. There's a lot of great stuff over there and a lot of great people. So we would love for you guys to be a part of it if you would like. So, guys, have a wonderful rest of your night. I appreciate you hanging out, and I'll see you, if not before then, on Monday of next week. And this Saturday, there's going to be a really cool video coming out with some chicken legs done in a way that you've probably never seen before. So make sure to check that out on Saturday. I think it's going to be really, really cool, and it's got an amazing product that I would also like to show you. You don't have to have the product to do this, but it's really cool, so I can get to do it for you with that. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That'll be coming out Saturday. I appreciate you guys being here and watching. I love all of you guys. Thank you for your support, because without you, I would have never gotten to this point, and my brain would not be what it is without this amazing family I have here. And most of all, to my lovely wife, who has supported me through all of this journey and is out playing a very cool show right now that I'm bummed I didn't get to go watch her play. But it's all good. She's going to be home in a little while. So thank you guys for being here. I love all of you. This is Chris Cook in Nashville. You guys eat your meat, love your life, regulate your brain, and I will see you here in the studio for more of these Monday motivations, down in the kitchen for more recipes, and with a cookbook coming soon. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys. Have a great night.